Hi, folks. Producer mode, Matt, aka Stormageddon here, working on the edit for this episode of Reignite. And since the time between when we recorded this and when it aired, video game voice actors who are members of SAG-AFTRA went on strike because a current contract does not have the AI protections that they need, so these actors don't get taken advantage of, so they are on strike. And unlike the actor strike, the biggest plea from the Video Game Voice Actors Union was that we let people know that this is happening, continue to play games, continue to talk about games, but also talk about the strike and how these voice actors deserve protections against AI and the unfair use of their voice and image in games without their consent and without compensation for sure. And we want to make sure that all eyes are on this. If you would like more information on the strike, you can go to sagastra.org, and right on the homepage, there's a big banner you can click on that says Video Game Strike, and it has tons of interviews with folks talking about the strike. It has tons of information about the strike and what they're fighting for in greater detail than I can provide here. But I wanted to make sure we mentioned it at the top of the show since we recorded this episode before it started, and you can bet we're going to mention it in every episode after until these people get what they deserve. That these folks who are fighting for fair treatment when it comes to the use of AI and to be protected against them being taken advantage of. And so hopefully the strike yields those things that these people deserve. And we will keep you updated as we hear more. But thank you. And now on with the episode.
Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk.
You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how we will do anything for a pretty lady. I'm Frankie.
And I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon.
Joining us today is freelance writer extraordinaire, Andrew McMahon. Please tell me I said that right.
You did, yeah. I'm very proud that
yes!
It wasn't McMahon.
All this time living in Northern Ireland has paid off!
Yeah, it is Irish. Hell yeah. I'm proud of you for not... You didn't even have to ask me either.
Yeah, it's all this time that I spend here in Northern Ireland. I look at the name and I say, it's definitely not the way that it's spelled. It's definitely not.
Nope.
Well, Andrew, we're so excited to have you here. You were one of the first people to reach out to me when I started posting about looking for guests, which is fun because most people are like, Dragon Age 2, which is not how Frankie and I feel. So it's exciting to have you here. I guess to start, just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your experience with Dragon Age, kind of broadly, the franchise.
First off, I think it's very important to address the what you just said there about people not liking Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2 is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen because it was made in a vacuum of, 6 to 9 months, and they still managed to... Imagine trying to make a game like that these days. You would get the disaster that was the launch of Cyberpunk times 1,000. So whenever someone brings that up, I'm like, you clearly don't understand what went into making this game. But I don't have to tell you two that, but the Mass Effect and Dragon Age series are very important to me, not just as a video game series or in that retrospect for its stories. It's just important to me because those were the games that broadened my horizons for entertainment and just kind of understanding people in general, because I had always been social. I had always been someone that could meet and talk to people, but it was these kind of stories and the subtext of everything and just the way that they were written that got me more interested in writing, that got me more interested in reading, and just kind of wanting to expand my just thought process in life in general, just because I enjoyed them so much. And this, before, my experience was play Call of Duty, play Madden, play FIFA, for the most part, over because most kids, even when they're not into video games, have played video games because they're kids and their friends are playing Crash Bandicoot or something like that. But I didn't really get into that kind of stuff until I played Mass Effect, and then by proxy, because I had played Mass Effect, I was like, oh, I'll play medieval Mass Effect. And I always go back and forth on which one's my favorite. I think it still leans Mass Effect, but every time I go back into Dragon Age, I always reminisce about 2 because of the... And it's funny because I always forget about these storylines and these characters and stuff, but every time that I go back into it, I always really appreciate the nuance of 2 and the politics and all this. I'm like, damn, this game goes so hard when it comes to that. Like, I always forget how well written these were. And I think 2 does suffer a little bit from the old BioWare effect where it got cut down a little bit from the dialogue, and it got cut down from the focus on the narrative as much. But it still always impresses me what they were able to get done with that game. And going back into it was a real wave and rush of nostalgia for me. So I'm glad I got to finally do it. You motivated me to get back into it, and I'm glad we did because it's perfect timing with Veilguard with everything.
Nice.
Hell yeah. I'm really glad that you mentioned how the narrative and the characters really made you think more about writing and expanding worlds and things like that, because I do believe that Dragon Age is an excellent piece of speculative fiction in terms of being fantasy, because it does a lot of things that fantasy needs to do, which is to make us think about the world that we live in through the lens of something that defamiliarizes our experience. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
So you've talked to us a bit about your experience with Dragon Age. Can you talk to us about the world state that you often leave Origins in? I know there's so many choices to choose from.
I give up everything and anything from Oregon.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
Anything from my goth mommy.
What kind of hero do you usually build?
I'm usually a pretty basic bitch when it comes to that. I will. It varies. I feel like I like mage, but I feel like the circle storyline and everything like that and the fade and all of that can be a bit rough. But every time I go back into it too, I think about, wow, the Deep Roads is kind of rough, and then I'm like, well, most of this is kind of rough.
Yeah.
I think we need a remake. But for the most part, I like to pick the mage storyline, just usually go male and usually romance Morrigan, and she don't have to convince me to make that baby. I'll tell you that much. And then I feel like I usually will because there's a way to do it without sacrificing yourself or Alistair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Logain.
Or
If
Logain.
that is the route you go.
I do love a good Logain redemption arc. It took me a few playthroughs to realize that was a thing, because the way that things ended up with Logain, and I can't remember the world state you need to get it in to make it so that he's the one that you meet in Inquisition, but I don't think it's necessarily a good one, because I think it means either Hawk or Alistair dies.
Alistair leaves the Wardens for good if you choose Logain over him.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah. But yeah, my usual world state is to make it so that I'm with Morrigan, and I believe Alistair is... I can go either way on that. He usually ends up being king, I believe. And are there any other ones that are big world state changes outside of those two?
Yeah, those are the big ones. What I'd be curious about is if you chose the werewolves over the elves, or if you managed to broker peace.
Oh, always broker peace.
Hell yeah.
We're peaceful people.
Love,
Yeah,
love, love peace.
I'm a Paragon simp. I always try and go the good boy route.
You'll fit in right very well with this podcast then.
I feel like most people, like, you gotta be real cruel to find a renegade or like straightforward. Like, people that mostly would be like, yeah, no, I play, I've seen the renegade scenes. I don't agree with them, but I've seen them for the purpose of
Matt, do you
plot.
have any decisions that you're curious about?
No, I mean, I think those are the big ones. I would have asked you who you romance, but you made that pretty clear.
I mean, I say that, but I've played through the game like 8 different times.
Sure.
So I feel like only 7 of them have been
Morgan, right? Of course, yeah. You change it up once.
I gotta throw Liliana in there every now and then.
There you go.
Do you go for the threesome with the Isabella of Origins?
Goddamn right.
Cat.
That's why I opened the door a second ago, because my cats were clawing on it. Yeah, I that's something else I was gonna bring up too. It always blew my mind that Isabella was in Origins, and then I go back, I'm like,
Is that?
what the hell is that? Not
Who is
Isabella.
that?
Yeah.
I was like, good God, woman.
Yeah.
You had like facial reconstruction. You changed races, I think.
Now, let's actually talk about that a little bit. My next question was going to be why Isabella, but let's also roll into that the difference between Origins Isabella and Dragon Age 2 Isabella.
Well, she's literally goes from just kind of like a generic pirate captain, I think, in the first one, to Jack Sparrow in the second one. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God. This is everything I've ever wanted in a woman.
She was married in the first one too.
Was she?
So.
Does that story carry over as well? I can't remember.
I think she was widowed in the first one. Like, her husband had just died, and she was like, oh, how sad. Anyways, Evan, would you like to bone? Would you like that?
Yeah.
We could bone.
Yeah.
And she also had, I think she had a Norwegian accent.
Yeah. She definitely isn't the same voice actress from the first one to the second one,
no.
for sure.
Not the same at all.
I do appreciate how they just kind of like Marvel replaced her, and they're like, yeah, I mean, it's the same character, but we're not really going to put that much effort into it. If you guys, want to make a headcanon, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
she had to go out on the lam and get surgery to get everything changed, then
I just
on
wonder,
you.
is there any benefit for us as players for this to be the same character?
no, I mean, her impact on the first one is so minuscule outside of just being like, yeah, we had a threesome before, but
Yeah, and like maybe a lot of players didn't. I don't know. I don't know who would make that decision.
Seems sus.
Me sometimes.
Uh,
Me sometimes. It depends on who I'm romancing, and if it's Alistair, I cannot have a threesome with her because Alistair would be like, I don't think that's right. We're monogamous. Did you know that we're monogamous? And I have to be like,
that's
motherfucker.
good old Boy Scout.
I love him though, and I will forgive him for this. I will forgive him for this terrible decision that he forces on us. So I agree. I think that there is really no narrative point. There's no upsell
No.
to it being the same character. It doesn't bring an added level of joy to seeing her. If anything, I think it brings confusion.
Yeah.
You're like, hmm?
I mean, also, like, you're not the same. Like, if it were like the Shepard stories of Mass Effect, you're the same character, so it would kind of matter. But here, you're not even the same character you played in the first game, so you won't know them anyway. So it's kind of like, unless she wants to walk around bragging about having had a threesome with the hero Ferelden, which sounds like something Isabella would do, but she doesn't even do that. Like, it doesn't. I don't think it even comes up into if you do it in one.
I don't think the actual like romance section of it, if you want to call it a romance, comes up. I think she just talks about meeting him.
Okay.
And that's it. It's like a one-off type of deal.
Got it.
I wonder if it comes up later in the game when another fan favorite appears.
Oh yeah, could be. I hadn't thought of that.
Oh.
But also, I guess to the root of the question, why is Isabella in this game? Is she your favorite romance like Morgan in the first?
I think it's a little bit. I feel like 2 doesn't do as good a job with its romances, but Isabella is always my number one because she falls into that category of Jack, of even kind of Miranda, where it's like this person that is forward facing. It's got this personality, but behind the scenes there's a lot more to it. And she's a rogue, she's swashbuckling, she's very enthusiastic up until this point. Just based on the way I went, everyone that I had met had been very depressing so far at the start. Like Anders, we know, he's got a little demon inside him. Meryl is just real sad girl getting kicked out, blood mage. So meeting Isabella and just seeing her bounce some dude's head off the bar and like threaten to kill him, I was just like, ooh, yeah, now we got a little feisty, a little personality. And I don't know how deep we want to go into the discussion of her backstory with everything as it goes on throughout the rest of the story, but there's so much more than meets the eye to her, and there's so much more substance that when you do romance her, you have a lot more to unpack and to see compared to no necessarily slight to him, but I'm just hating on him because he what happens with him. Anders always annoys me. So but
all right, you and I in
fight.
The Denny's parking lot.
Yeah, no, I figured. Most people that romance Anders are like they're full on in, and they're trauma bonding with him. So I get it.
Me? Trauma bond? Me?
I mean,
the PTSD?
Yeah, Isabella's got her own trauma to go
Me
with.
with religious trauma?
I just it's not religious based, so.
Yeah, I mean, well, I like that you brought up Miranda and Jack also because I, as Frankie's hiding from us, I romanced Jack in the playthroughs we did for Reignite, and like, I hadn't romanced her before. I had known that there was more to her character. You get a sense of that once you re-meet her in 3, but like, I was really kind of blown away by the storytelling and what you find out about her past. And I think that you're right. I think Isabella is another character like that is very much, is guarded and like very quippy and rude and fun because she's hiding kind of behind some stuff. And so I like that comparison. That makes a lot of sense. And it's an interesting narrative device and which BioWare has used several times.
Is she another instance where you can't romance her as a female, Isabella?
No, I think she's she's bisexual.
Everybody.
See, there we go.
Bisexual
queen too. Because I mean that it's more commonplace now, but back then that's just another reason that I think Isabella is a really good character because she's fluid in both her personality and she's just like, I'll go with the flow. She's open. But yeah, I've always enjoyed that. I'm I just want casual sex, or I'm not like most girls, and then it turns out they love a good romance and they're a softie just like everyone else. You just gotta get to that layer trauma.
Get through the trauma. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's actually something surprisingly we haven't discussed, Matt, is that
trauma.
Well,
no, we talk about that
all
the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Say, how?
Everyone, all the companions are bisexual.
Yeah, in this. Yeah. I think that was a big kind of complaint. It feels player sexual a little bit.
Right.
Whereas it's not like as clear as like, say, Caden Alenko by the third game, who is very much a gay character. He's bisexual.
No, he's bisexual.
But like, it just feels more deliberate by Mass Effect 3 in a way that I think all of the characters being bi in this game just kind of feels like a scattershot. I don't think it's bad necessarily, but I don't know that. Like, I would say a lot of the characters in the third game, specifically of Mass Effect, who have certain proclivities, whether they're just gay or they're bisexual or some mix or difference or whatever, it feels more intentional. Whereas in this game and the earlier BioWare games, it just kind of feels like, well, the player wants to romance them, so we should let the player romance them.
Honestly, that's the way I think it should be, unless the backstory, like, there is an important reason
Sure.
why, like, for example, Dorian in Inquisition. Dorian's backstory, it is vital that he is strictly gay.
Yeah.
So it would not make sense for him to be bisexual.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So-
that totally makes sense. I don't think I have any problem with player sexuality. I think that works. I also like custom stories that feel really grounded and like the character isn't just gay because it's convenient to the romance options. Which I think also, like what Andrew was saying, digging deeper with Isabella and some of the other characters here do make it feel kind of more custom to the player and not just like convenience for romancing in a video game. Which is also okay. Are you reacting to the cat in the background?
Yeah, I knew you
Frankie?
were.
I am right. I am.
You're
You're
smiling.
so cute.
You're smiling, but she was a little terror this morning, trying to get me up at all hours of the morning, trying to get food for a second time. She had already woken me up. Yeah, now she's climbing up to the top of the window.
She did a jump.
She did.
Before we jump into this episode, we obviously, for the first time in the history of this podcast, are current with a brand new release in the franchise we are covering, and the Veilguard is coming this fall. I'm curious about your thoughts on the Veilguard, especially now that we've had a reveal of gameplay and some other things.
I'm doing
Excited-
everything within my power not to look at this thing.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Because
Interesting.
it is, and it's very hard in the modern day. It is one of those games where, because I also write as a freelancer, it is, I go back and forth on, do I want to cover this game? I'm like, no, I want to enjoy this game. I don't want to have to go into work mode and have to overanalyze things. And like, I like the fact that, you know, Wesley at Game Informer is doing a great job with diving into these type of things. And I've seen a lot of other headlines and stuff coverage wise, but every time I do, I just run away because I'm like, I want to experience it myself. When I was a kid, back in my day, I got to experience Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, Origins, Awakening, all of this without any, like, you got a little bit of seeing it on G4 or on X-Play or this, but it's like everything that I've ever experienced with both of these series, I've gotten to go in blind for, and I think that's very important for me. Which again is very hard. Hopes wise, at the very least, I hope the main thing is that they need to not fumble the possibility of redemption with Egghead, because
Egg.
yeah, Solus needs to be a very important part of the story, and he can't just be like this small connection.
Right.
And I think all of us kind of shrieked and shrunk like a raisin a little bit when they changed the name to Veilguard, because we're like, why? It was a perfect name, and it fit perfectly. Is Solus not a big part of the story anymore? What's happening? Like,
Yeah.
I have this worry that they're just gonna pump and dump him, and they're gonna put him in there as this this interconnective like weave, and then once it's gotten further enough to where like it's its own story and all that, they're just gonna like make him not as important, which
Just
I don't-
yeet him.
yeah, I don't want to say that they kind of did that with Morgan, but they definitely did that a little more so with Origins characters over, and they redeemed themselves in Inquisition. But I just hope there's more interconnectivity, and based on what they were doing with Inquisition, it looks like they're doing well with that. I also don't have a clear-cut person that I've seen in all of those trailers and everything, because I have at least seen the trailer, that I was like, yeah, I want to romance them. So I think that's going to be a really interesting package to unwrap, because well, actually, no, I lied. I have one immediately that I just remembered, and it's the Canary, because I fucking love the Canary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's all valid, and we won't get into too much detail then, because I want to preserve that childlike wonder for you. But
That innocence.
that innocence, yeah.
I got very little left, please.
But like, no, I agree. I think this is tough because this is the first Dragon Age game that's going to rely heavily on the previous game. Like the jump from 2 to 1, as you said, it kind of mostly dumped most of the characters. We have a couple of run-ins, but for the most part, it's a completely completely separate story. And then Inquisition, sort of plays on the first two games a little more, but it does feel like Inquisition and the Veilguard are the most connected two of the Dragon Age games have been, in a way that they haven't done before. And so I am curious how they pull that off. But I'm hopeful. I, as a pansexual, they, them, am attracted to all the new characters. So that'll be tough for me.
Bang them all.
I mean, that's what it's about, right? But thank you, Andrew, for that. We're so excited to have you here. Before we get into this episode more detailed and talk about Isabella, would you kindly read our summary of what we're getting ourselves into?
Of course. So, back at the Hanged Man, we saw a beautiful lady beat the shit out of a bunch of gross men. Of course, we wanted to talk to her. She immediately decides we can help her by having her back in a duel. When we go to support her, we learn that her opponent plays dirty, shocking, and is waiting to hear news of her death in the Chantry. We fight our way through more raiders and discover that our new stabby friend has a lot more going on than we thought.
Yeah, this is exciting for me because, so Isabella was my romance in my first ever playthrough of Dragon Age 2, because of course she was. And I'm excited to revisit this game, and we've talked about this a bit previously, with kind of this new eyes, spending a ton more time on Origins and really getting to know the story better, and then really getting to dive deeper into these characters and discuss it with other people. I think what's fun is when you agree to help Isabella, she's just like, okay, great, come meet me. We'll go do the thing. Like, she's just very like nonchalant about all of this, which I think kind of plays to her character quite a bit.
Yeah, I have complicated feelings about Isabella because
All right, we're meeting in the Denny's parking lot. Get it?
Yeah. Well, my complicated feelings stem from, like, I think that she is not necessarily a good friend. I personally would not be able to handle romancing someone like her in real life.
Sure.
And I think that she is very unhealthy for me emotionally.
Oh, no
and
doubt.
sometimes
no
I
doubt.
just
That's
wanna
what
be
we
like-
love about her. We need a
Like,
toxica
oh,
in
no.
our life.
It's not great. But yeah, knowing what I know about her, it is frustrating, like, how many secrets she's holding on to.
Right.
And how we have to, like, really dig at her just to get a little bit of honesty.
Yeah.
Especially as the friendship or the relationship develops, you really need to, like, make her realize that you have her best interests at heart. And that could be hard to do. That's where the reputation with your friends. We also haven't really talked about reputation all that much. Like, the reputation matters.
Yeah.
Unlike in Origins, where it didn't super matter as much. It was very easy to just max out reputation with everyone.
Do you think that it's going to be similar in Veilguard, or do you think it's going to go back to Origins, where it's like they want to please everyone, they want everyone to be friends if they want to be friends, type of thing?
I kind of preferred the DA2 version.
Yeah.
Where, like,
there are consequences to your choices.
Yeah, there's consequences to what you've done, and somebody's not gonna like it, and you can't just force them to like you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's I think that, the problem with Inquisition, before we get back to this mission, is that just the having so-and-so approves or disapproves didn't really tell us, like, it told us stuff in the moment, but, like, if you have rivalry with someone in this game, it can really change how certain conversations go. And I think that that's important and interesting. It'll be a miracle by the end of this playthrough if I'm not rivals with Aveline, but we'll get back to that another time.
Big cap.
I forgot to ask you, Andrew, before we move into the details of this mission, I know you started a brand new playthrough to get up to this point to join us. What did you create? Did you stay a basic bitch?
Oh, yeah, I'm a basic bitch. I went male mage.
There you go.
Partially I'm regretting it because of how annoying Carver is to start.
I said the same thing.
Carver. God, Stephanie is... I really wish I could dig you up right now and just put Carver in there instead, because he is... I don't remember him being this annoying.
Yeah.
We have a Carver apologist in our Discord.
That's
they
true.
posted something that I meant to read about, like, why Carver isn't as bad as everybody thinks he is.
Yeah.
And I can't
Is it the old Ashley Williams defense?
I mean, I don't think it is, but I understand somewhat of why Carver is the way he is, because if he's the only non-mage kid and his dad is spending a lot of time with the mage kids,
Yeah.
he feels left out. So I do understand a little bit about why he's a whiny baby man sometimes, but I don't know.
He just doesn't have fun at all.
I feel like
and
if
I'm
my own
God.
little brother said any of that shit to me, I'd like
Just-
knock him down.
Yeah, just
Like,
smack
what
him.
Don't fucking talk to me like that.
Where's my renegade interrupt option?
Yeah, like
Kick Carver out a window real quick.
anyway. Shall we get into it?
Yes, let's please.
Okay, so one of the things that I just want to point out is that this is actually really short.
Yeah, the mission.
Like, there's not a lot to this.
Yeah,
Nope.
it goes really quick. Like we mentioned this conversation we have in the Hangman, and by conversation I mean we watched this woman clobber these thugs, which is awesome and always fun. It felt very actually it's funny you make a comparison to Jack Sparrow. It does feel very Pirates of the Caribbean. Her movement and the way she fights and she quips, it does have that kind of vibe. And then she's like, "Oh, you look helpful. Will you help me with this thing?" Basically,
You there, boy.
But like the mission itself, we meet her in Hightown after dark, and we immediately get ambushed, and it's just like, oh, okay,
Nothing new there. You got a Hightown after dark. You blink and look at someone wrong, and that's a fight.
Yeah. Well, what squad did everybody take?
So I initiated the mission with Fenris, Anders, and Varric.
The squad.
The
I was
squad.
gonna say
Boy
honestly,
squad.
that's probably what I did too. Even if Fenris like hates me,
Yeah,
Because you're a mage boy.
I'm like, I get it. It's cool. I didn't bring Fenris along a lot in the original when I played it in my original playthrough. So I want to bring him around more this time because I'm like, he reminds me of Solus, and I ended up really liking Solus.
yeah. I brought Fenris also for similar reasons. I didn't use him a lot. I also am playing a mage this time around because Frankie did the due diligence of playing a mage in our Origins playthrough. So I figured it was only fair, and by only fair, I had no choice. I had to play them
Yep.
because we
Do you
needed.
If
not
I
usually
had
play
to
as a mage?
suffer, somebody else has to suffer as well.
Yeah, and I hadn't.
I think. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I haven't played a mage before in this game. I dabbled with a mage in Inquisition, which plays sort of similarly, but I'm enjoying it so far. Other than everyone looking at me funny.
What build are you with the mage? Do you go damage? Do you go support?
Oh, always damage. I have Anders around.
Fireball.
I have Anders with me to heal. I'm not going to go that route. I'm doing kind of a tanky like earth based build. I have the stone armor. I have the throwing rock fist and like the AoE fireball. Like I'm trying to do high impact stuff and like area of effect stuff because also I know that like single target damage, Varric and a few others are going to have that, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I tend to go the fire, ice, and heal.
Mm-hmm.
If every now and then I'll do the necromancer one in this one as well. I can't remember
I don't
if that one.
think so. I don't
Yeah.
think necromancer's in this one.
I think it's in Inquisition, but I
Mhm.
always just remember turning into a spider, and it's the coolest thing ever.
Terrible joke time. Actually, all of the games contain a necromancer.
Yeah, that's true.
Boo.
Yeah, boo. Anyway, but yeah, so this mission moves pretty quick. So we get attacked in Hightown. We haven't really talked about the combat too much because again, once like the combat at this early level is pretty basic. A couple of attacks, some defensive abilities. We don't have a ton. It drives me crazy, and I think we've complained about this before, but I'm going to complain about it again. Having to resummon my dog every time there's a cutscene,
Yeah.
just to fight, like
I
him
always
being
forget.
and like
I didn't know I had a dog when I first played the game. I was like, oh
Yeah, me too. I had no idea.
crap.
Nobody explained that to me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I liked that he was a character in the first game, but it was a bummer that he took up a character slot because, you couldn't really there was minimal interaction with him as much as it was fun to interact with him. So having him as a power-up in this makes so much more sense. It's just frustrating because you can't like my stone armor's on all the time and it just comes on to me when I enter combat, but the toggle's
Yeah?
always on.
Without consent?
Even in the bedroom?
Like, I summon the
take the
stone
stone
armor
armor off, please.
immediately at the start of combat, but like the dog, you just have to click every time, and I always forget. It drives me a little crazy. But yeah, the combat here is kind of nothing much, and then we find out that the person we were supposed to meet, what the hell is his stupid name? With his stupid
Hater.
face. Hater.
Because he is a hater.
Perfect name. What
Perfect
a hater.
We have to meet him in the chantry because he's waiting to hear about our death from the contacts we just killed.
And isn't it interesting that there is a whole lot of bloodshed in the chantry, a place that is supposed to be holy?
Yeah, that
And safe.
seems like so contradictory. It's not like the chantry is actually corrupt and there's a ton of problems there. This isn't foreshadowing.
Oh boy. It's very interesting that so much violence happens in the chantry, of all places.
It's when we get into the chantry that we find out that apparently Isabella had ulterior motives and other plans, and we kind of find out the details of how she ended up in this position in the first place.
Yeah, we find out a bunch of things. For example, Isabella does not approve of slavery.
Good. Agree
We do
there.
love it.
Love us someone who wants to fight some slavers.
Isabella is being punished for releasing the slaves by being forced to hunt down a relic for Castillon, that's his name. So she doesn't have the relic. She doesn't know where it is. She lost it. And now Hater is supposed to be trying to kill her in order to, like, punish her for not having the relic or whatever. Hater sucks.
Yes, he is, in fact, a hater. Did you guys try and be diplomatic here, or did you just start the fight?
With hater? No. No.
Yeah, no.
No reason to.
I tried to find out more details, and it's funny, if you try and be diplomatic, Isabel just goes, no, there's only one way to handle this, and throws her dagger, kills her, kills his left hand man,
her.
and then...
I said Castillon sounds like a grumpy person.
you're not wrong. Oh, was that the Purple Hawk response?
Yeah. Like, this was not a situation where in real life I would feel me being diplomatic is gonna help anything.
That's fair.
So instead I would be like, man, that guy sounds like he sucks.
What a grumpy goose. I just want to point out, too, those were both things that Jack Sparrow went through as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Freeing slaves, life centered around a relic.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm sure it's not coincidence. The Pirates movies are out by now, so there's probably some inspiration there.
I mean, they weren't just out. That's when Pirates of the Caribbean was, like, at its peak.
Height, yeah.
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 I do love this scene, though, where it does the slow camera pan as she throws the dagger. It hits the woman guard, and then we start fighting.
It is very nice.
It's very cinematic. After the combat here, we find out that not only does Isabella not have the relic, she has no idea what the relic is, which is very unhelpful.
Or so she says.
At this point, we do not, as characters, know. What we know as players is a different story. But yeah, she tells us that she doesn't have it, but she does need to find it. And you're given an option here to, like, just agree right away flat out to help a friend, or like question her or give her a hard time, or even you can tell her to forget the relic. What did you guys choose here? Did you just agree because you're a good person?
Yes, I'm a complete simp, so I agreed.
Pretty lady ask me for help. I do pretty
help.
lady sex.
What do you say? Me say yes.
I asked her a couple of questions. I didn't feel like it was interrogating her.
No.
I felt that it was more like, hey, you did drag me along into this, so I feel like you should tell me a couple of things, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And then I said, like, well, fuck Castillon, who the fuck cares? Like, live your life now.
Yeah.
And she was just like, it's not that easy.
Yeah. I also asked questions about everything and got as many answers as I could out of her, and then agreed to help as well. But it is clear, I think, even here, even if we didn't know what we know, that she's guarded. She's protecting something. She's quippy. She's making jokes about having company at the Hanged Man. And
yeah, she deflects every, like, 5 words.
Yeah.
Basically. But we do find out now that we're going to help her with the relic, and then she does invite us back to the Hangman if we want some company and to chat more. I was a little disappointed that. Oh, before we get to that, I have my favorite quote of the whole thing is when you talk to her about the men she left. And
I think I know what it is.
Yeah, when you talk to her about the men she lost and the crashing of the ship, she gets somber and she's sad. Like she didn't want that to happen. They were doing what they had to do. And then afterwards, at the end, she goes, balls.
Yes, I wrote that down too.
Benoit balls.
It was just so random, but I think very funny too.
That ties with stab first, ask questions later.
Yeah, it does. It was just such a great moment. It made me laugh pretty hard. But yeah, and then when we go back to the Hangman, like unlike the other follow-up conversations we've done, she's just a little bit of banter, and then offers you another mission. Like I was a little disappointed because, like with Fenris, you have that heart to heart where you sit down in the mansion. With Anders, you do the same thing. You find out about judgment and all of this stuff. Here, it was just like, hey, justice, not judgment.
Well, with her, it not to spoil too much, but that does come later, and that plays more into the guarded, like, yeah, we're friends, but I don't trust you type of like survivor's mindset that a lot of these tortured soul characters tend to have. And it's like you said, they've done it a lot, and it can be cliche, but for me, it always hits because it's a delicate topic, and it's, you know, one that I think people can resonate with a lot too, regardless of whether it's exactly like that for them. But that's always why I gravitated to her.
And as we've discussed, you're also a simp, so that helps.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
But that's kind of it here. We're given the Martin mission, as I wrote it down. It's to go see her contact Martin, who's like a poison specialist, I think, which I vaguely remember this quest.
Yeah.
But that was kind of it.
I remember. It's a quest that can go one of two ways. I do have a question for the chat. And my question is, why do we think this was titled Fool's Russian?
Oh, good question. I mean, I think it's about Hawk rushing in, not Isabella rushing in. I think this is, well, for one, it's to, of course, pay homage to the incredible romantic comedy of the 90s, Fool's Rush In, starring Salma Hayek and Matthew Perry. But beyond that, I think it's because Hawk is pretty brash and tends to rush forward into things.
Is that what you think the homage is?
Yes, why?
And not Fools Rush In, where wise man fear to tread?
I mean, that too, probably.
I honestly thought it was for Fool's Gold with Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson. I don't know if that is released by this point yet, but
but no, I mean, I thought it was referring to Hawk, but I sense you have a different theory.
No, I don't have a theory. My problem was that I couldn't quite figure out why it was called Fool's Rush In, because the idea of Fool's Rush In is often associated with love.
Yes, that's true. Like the romantic comedy I just mentioned.
And also, what? Fools Rush In. God, what is that fucking song?
I don't know.
There's a song that references Fools Rush In as well. And wise men say only fools rush in.
Yeah.
But I can't help falling in love with you. That's what I was going for. So that was the first reference that I thought of, and then which leads to the proverb. I think it's actually Fool's Rush In where angels fear to tread, but I'm not 100% certain. Anyway, neither here nor there. So I was just trying to see if we can suss out what we think the title was trying to tell us about this character.
Got it.
Because with bait and switch, that was very obvious. Like, it was literally a bait and switch.
Yeah.
So
well, you've also got Fool's Gold. She's, a pirate. Yeah, that type of like cliche. I don't think it's as deep as we might try and break it down. I think it's just like a little tie to that because you're a pirate. And just Hawk not looking into this a bit more and getting...
It's true. Hawk is very much like, I guess, yeah.
Sure.
Hawk's a simp, baby.
Let's
We're going in.
Like, man, everybody really needs my help.
Yeah, just in general. Just
I guess I'll do
even
it.
if you're the mean hawk, you're still like, I'll grump and I'll brr, but I'll do it.
All right. Okay, cool. Can we move on?
Yeah, let's head on to your favorite corner.
I'm your biggest fan. I'll buy your merch until I'm broke, babe. Fandom Corner. Welcome back to Fandom Corner. It is my favorite segment of the show. Brought it back just for Dragon Age 2, where I will go through all of the artists I met at QCon and give you a new recommendation for an independent artist to support. So today we're going to be talking about Prince Puka, who is an Irish illustrator and merch artist. They are at Prince Puka, spelled Puca, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can check out their merch at princepuka.bigcartel.com. The style is very anime focused, with stickers, prints, and acrylic charms from properties like Baldur's Gate 3, Dungeon Meshi, Black Butler, Death Note, and other animes I have never heard of, but they look cool as fuck in Prince Puka's art style. So there's some that I might check out. My favorite pieces are the Asterion art print and matching acrylic charm. They are absolutely gorgeous and like so deadly beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it goes with having talked about Isabella today as well, in a way.
Yeah.
Because he is also a rogue and he loves his daggers. So I think there's a little matching there. But also she created these acrylic charms for Marcel and Fallon from Dungeon Meshi, and they're really adorable. And I love them a lot. And I think I have to get them for myself and my friend Jess. And also there is a Shadow the Hedgehog as a maid sticker.
Amazing.
Wearing a French maid outfit, and it's so great. I have to get that.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing I've seen on the site is there's a Cloud Strife dress print that's in the style of his outfit from the remake, and it's amazing. It's like pinup, it's anime, it's great.
It's so good. It's perfect. It's beautiful. It's cursed.
It is.
It's great. So that was Prince Puka. You can find them all over the internet, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and their website is princepuka.bigcartel.com.
And I'll put a link in the show notes to the merch store so y'all can go just click on through and check it out.
Yes. And as I am showing Matt and Andrew, I have so many business cards for us to go through.
We'll have Fandom Corner for the rest of our lives.
Forever.
Yes. So many fans.
Before we start to wrap up, I want to shout out that the next thing we are doing, of course, is Long Way Home, which is where we meet a certain elf mage of a certain variety. We continue to recruit and grow our awesome party of really damaged,
really fucking weird people.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah. The group.
Everyone's depressed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Everyone's sad forever.
Next thing I want to do, of course, is thank Andrew McMahon for joining us. Andrew, it's so good to have you on the show. I would love to give you an opportunity to tell folks where they can find you online, check out the stuff that you've done, all that good stuff.
I'm quite literally all over the place. I have no...
You have no allegiances.
I have no specific schedule, but I've been covering a lot more of a sports beat recently. I've been getting back into FIFA and Madden.
Cool.
I play in a fun little journalist league with a bunch of other journalists in Madden. So I'll be covering college football soon for a new site. And I have some previous works on IGN, PC Gamers N, and hope to, dive back into there. Just keep an eye on my X or Twitter account. It's McMahon Bear Pig, like South Park. And that's usually just where I'll post most of my self-promotion stuff, since I don't have a specific beat, since most of the freelance work that I do is a little sporadic, since I have a full-time job as well. But for the most part, I like doing it just so I can keep up with people and do fun stuff like this, honestly. And get, free games every now and then.
For a second, I thought your sentence was going to end with follow up on my ex and just end there. And I was like, why would we do that? Why? Are they okay?
I also want to shout out Andrew recently was on an episode of SideQuest, episode 309, about Far Changing Tides, which is a game I've always wanted to check out. And you're
underrated as hell, baby. I love that game. That got me through COVID. Parts of COVID.
I love that episode. I love that you talk about the pandemic and how this game kind of changed the trajectory of the pandemic. Definitely go check it out. It's definitely worth a listen and has made me add this game to my backlog. So thank you for doing that. Thank you, my dear co-host Frankie. Shall we wrap up the show?
Yeah. Oh, that's the first time you ever thanked me.
Yeah.
I feel so special.
Yeah. I figured I'd throw you a bone.
No. If you like what you heard here, please follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find us personally, individually, on Twitter at Frankie B. Writes and DJ_Stormageddon. And on Blue Sky, where Frankie B. Writes and DJ Stormageddon with no underscore, guys. We have to get Blue Sky to get the underscore into DJ Stormageddon's name. It's very important for their brand.
It's so not. I mean, it is the only username across my platforms that doesn't have the underscore, but that's neither here nor there.
This is what I'm saying.
Anyway.
It sounds like what Isabel would say. Like, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Please rate and review us on your podcast platform of choice. It helps folks to find the show. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, Pocket Casts, literally any of those platforms. Giving us a 5-star rating helps folks when they are searching for Fools Rush In on Apple Podcasts. They won't find a podcast dedicated to that incredible 90s movie that I mentioned before, starring Matthew Perry and Selma Hayek. They will instead find this very podcast and our coverage of Dragon Age 2. So please do that when you have a chance. It's one of the easiest and fastest ways to help the podcast grow.
Don't forget, we're members of the Certain Point of View Network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on the website. Come on in and join the conversation.
We are pretty lively, talking about all sorts of other Dragon Age stuff, of course, the Veilguard, and we have some members of the Discord playing Origins for the first time and listening to the pod, which has been fun. Andrew may find some fellow Morgan Simps in there as well.
Some? Okay, buddy.
As for personal plugs, I'm still doing the same stuff I always do. I'm still editing the Game Informer show every week, which is a blast to do. I edit the audio version of that podcast. And then, of course, I am still hosting Fun and Games with the incredible Jeff Moonen and doing side quests. Go check that stuff out. If you want to support that pod, you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/funandgamespod. There's a free tier that just keeps you subscribed to getting the regular episodes and all the articles I write. And then at any of the paid tiers, you get access to other really cool stuff. So you should definitely go check that out. Frankie, what about you?
I got nothing going on right now in this life. I'm just a guy.
You're just a
Standing.
little guy?
Sitting cross-legged in front of my co-host. I don't know.
Okay.
Sure.
Fair enough.
So there's nothing new for me. Okay. So if you like what I do, you can drop me a couple of dollars on Venmo because, I am poor. That's Frankie Brad is hella rad. Papa doesn't need a new desk, but Papa does need to save up money to see my little baby brother get married.
Aww.
He's just a little guy.
It's true.
All 6'1" of him.
We'd also like to thank the incredible Case Aiken for developing awesome shirt designs that you can find over at certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring. Also, a big thank you to Case for designing each episode's individual show art. He's been killing it this season, and we're grateful for that.
We'd like to thank Miracle of Sound for our new theme music. Thank you. We love it.
And, of course, last but not least, thank you to Red Spinks for our Dragon Age-inspired logo. To see more of his work, you can go to Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
And finally, thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate you. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm Andrew. And remember, all Templars are bastards.
Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, 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 Hawk.
Hey, Nerf herders.
You sure you want to go with that?
Hey, everyone.
There we go. More inviting.
Have you ever had a movie that you really wanted to love, but something holds you back.
Or one that you did love in spite of a flaw?
Well, I'm Case Aiken.
And I'm Sam Alisea.
And on Another Pass, we sit down with cool guests to look at movies that we find fascinating.
But flawed.
And we try to imagine what could have been done when they were made to give them that little push.
We're not experts. We just believe in criticism.
Constructive criticism.
Sure.
So come take another pass at some movies with us.
And every now and then, we can celebrate movies that did it on their own, too.
You can find us at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Pass it on.
CPOV.
certainpov.com.